celebrate International Peace Day. Actually, it's this week, not today. And we are fortunate to have our three International Peacemaker Program alums with us today, Alison Sakharov, Guimong Pierre-Louis, and Haifa Swilmy. And they will share their perspectives on our theme, Striving for Just Peace. So let us prepare our heart for the time of prayer.
In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful, greetings to all. When it seemed there was no hope, we have seen your light
in the eyes
of a child. When it seemed there was no joy, we have heard your delight in the voice of a friend. When it seemed that life was stale, we have smelled
the
freshness of sunlight on our skin. When all seemed emptiness, we have touched your presence in the hand of a stranger. When the future seemed barren, we have tasted life's moisture in the lips of another. Thanks be to you, O God,
for your
embodiment of love. Open our senses to your presence, that we may respect
and love your creation.
Teach us all we need to know about respect, its mastery being our long-term objective. May this include learning to listen, allowing others to share their opinions. May our respect towards other humans truly reflect your love toward all.
Amen.
Amen.
And now we will listen to a song that Alison has chose. Oops.
Hans, can I say one quick thing?
Sure.
So some of you, if you were at a service I led at Hartford a few years ago, this is the same song that I opened our service with then. And while I have improved in my singing of Hebrew since then, because I'm in rabbinical school, I wanted to share this again, and we're going to be playing the music video in the background so that you can hear even more voices singing this. So thank you, Han.
All right.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu Leshalom. Ve'ha'amidenu Shomrenu lechaim. Ufos aleinu Sukat shlomecha. Hashkiveinu השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. השכיבנו and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
So now we'll hear reflections from our three speakers, and I'll give to Phoebe to introduce the speakers.
All right. Welcome. It's good to see everybody here this morning or this afternoon, I guess. And it is such a pleasure for me to do very brief introductions. I have such affection for the students who passed through the IPP program, and so it's wonderful to get to see faces again and see people from multiple years here in this virtual space. So first up, we have Alison Zakharoff. She is a 2018 IPP alumna from the United States. She's a current rabbinical student at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she's continuing to do lots of multi-faith work in addition to her coursework. She most recently had an article published in the Journal of Interreligious Studies entitled Women in Religious Leadership and Interfaith Dialogue, the Challenges Faced and Possible Solutions. And while Alison's speaking, I will post the link to that article in the chat. So now I'll pass it over to you, Alison.
Thank you, Phoebe. That was so wonderful to hear your voice and see your face. So, as the song said, let there be peace and love and understanding among us. It's such a blessing to be with all of you, even from so far away on our screen. So, I'm Jewish, as Phoebe said. I'm in rabbinical school, and right now, Jews around the world are in this period known as the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In the Jewish calendar, this time and the past month, especially leading up to this time, is a period when a lot of us spend time in reflection. What have I done this past year that I wish I had not done? How can I make amends for the wrongs I've committed against others, against myself, and against God? Really this deep reflection. A word we use is tshuva, kind of returning as we try to make amends for what we've done. There's a practice also as we name sins we've committed. Some people choose to knock their heart as they name the sins we've committed. So this is a very serious, emotional time for a lot of folks, but it's also a very meaningful time. Somebody recently likened it to Lent for those who observe Lent in the Christian community. But our atonement is not only about what bad things we did, it's also about the good things we did not do yet. And I think this is where this is a particularly apt subject for today's prayer, this looking for a just peace, seeking peace, and peace only coming when there's true justice. So I may not be alone in thinking a lot about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg this past week. For those not in the US, she was one of the Supreme Court members, the first Jewish woman on our Supreme Court, of which there are only 9 justices, and they play a foundational role in moving our country forward. And so we lost her, somebody well beloved who made great strides, especially for women in our country. And it's said that she had on the wall in her office a quote from Deuteronomy, Tzedek, Tzedek tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. And the idea is that we can't just be content to live our own lives. We have to make sure that we're also making the world better for other people. And so my way of trying to contribute to a more just society is through multi-faith work. And I think most of you who have met me know that my passion is bringing people together across lines of difference so that we can grow in understanding and grow in respect. And so my time at Hartford was incredibly meaningful and came as part of my life path towards doing that. I had just gotten back from Jerusalem when a lovely gentleman named Yehezkel said, maybe you should go to Hartford for a year. And I got to spend time especially focused on the Quran. In my time over the past few years working on multi-faith projects and work, I had not had enough time to really devote to that study in a meaningful way. And the thing that really amazed me about Hartford, aside from the academic quality, which I've been at 4 different graduate schools, and I will say is some of the highest I have ever found, so shout out to all of our teachers. What I really found in studying the Quran and studying Islam at Hartford was I was able to do it, first of all, in English, which was good since I don't speak Arabic, but also it meant that I was studying this with people, some of whom are on the call, people who truly believe in this faith and follow this faith and were willing to talk to me as I asked questions and tried to learn and probably stumbled along the way. And I also saw that obviously from my Christian colleagues, but it was especially helpful to be able to study the Quran in such depth for the first time. And I will say that I am in rabbinical school, but when people say, will you teach a class on a Jewish topic? I'm always like, well, can I do something that's like Islam? And usually they say yes, which is very convenient because I really took a lot of that learning and internalized it from my year at Hartford. My year at Hartford was also wonderful just because I was one of few Jewish folks on campus at the time. I loved holding Rosh Hashanah dinners and Shabbat dinners and inviting friends of different faiths in. And really where this justice comes from, I think, is where when we can find a way to respect someone who disagrees with us, and we can welcome someone in their wholeness, and we can welcome someone in everything they are, and figure out a way to love them even when we disagree. And I think that was really lived out a lot at Hartford. I'm still, as Phoebe said so kindly, still trying very much to do multi-faith work, even in the midst of translating way too much Aramaic. Why do I need to know Aramaic? But it's great. I've been able to, I live in Philadelphia when it's not a pandemic. I've been fortunate to organize projects for seminarians, Christian seminarians, and my rabbinical school colleagues to do projects like that. I've also been fortunate to be welcomed onto a few national dialogues, which has been great, between the National Council of Synagogues and the Catholics, and with also the Protestant and Orthodox Christians. And that has been an incredible experience, not only just from the fact that I love hanging out with priests all the time, but also because in these dialogues, which are usually run still by white male clergy who are in their 60s and 70s, it's such a blessing to be able to be a young woman representing that there are people who are not fitting the traditional mold of clergy and who are out here doing this work. And that's some of what I wrote about in the article that Phoebe shared in the chat. So I'd like to leave you all with a short blessing today. I'm a big believer that we all have our own niche roles to play. There are so many topics to care about, so many things to love and fight for, and we all can't fight for all of them all of the time. Obviously, my thing is multi-faith work. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was perhaps fighting for the cause of women and others. And so my blessing for all of you in this virtual space, which is amazing to be with you, my blessing is that you may each find your passion for changing this world, for creating a more just world everywhere, and that you follow that passion as much as you're possibly able. Amen. Thank you all.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, I think we're moving on to Guimond now. So Guimond Pierre-Louis is an Episcopal priest from Haiti, where he told us earlier it is currently 91 degrees. He's in Port-au-Prince right now. He is a graduate from Hartford Seminary in 2018 and from the Virginia Theological Seminary in 2020. Right now he's figuring out the next steps for himself, whether it's parish ministry or pursuing further studies. Guimond.
Thank you, Phoebe, for the introduction. I thank the community of Hartford Seminary in general, and Hans and Phoebe in particular, for extending this invitation to me to share a reflection on today's theme, striving for just peace. I am blessed to be an alum from Hartford Seminary while cherishing to the utmost importance the gifts and skills I acquired from my 1 year spent in this amazing community. Today, I title my reflection, How Hartford Seminary Taught Respect to Me and My Family. When I received the invitation from Hans to offer a reflection at this virtual community prayer, I automatically felt the need to connect my Haitianness to the experience I obtained in the US and from Hartford Seminary. Thus, I'm speaking from the vantage point of my intersectionality that encompasses a Haitian, an Episcopal priest, an alum from Hartford Seminary and Virginia Theological Seminary, but to add one more that embraces these particularities without negating them, a human being. Martin Luther King said, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice." Reading the theme, striving for just peace, implies there is an unjust peace. This unjust peace is not always linked with conflict and war. Its subtle manifestation is by negating the other's dignity and her or his right to be the one they choose to be. In other words, it manifests in showing no respect to the other. There are different types of justice, and my reflection gears toward a form of restorative justice that focuses on wrongdoings against individuals, either openly or subtly. I have witnessed this form of injustice done to the human person in my own neighborhood involving my family. When I left Haiti to attend Hartford Seminary in August 2017, I did not know how being an IPP student would impact my life. It turns out that not only did it change my personal life, it also changed my family while positively impacting others. By way of introductory information, Haiti is not so diverse in terms of religious plurality. This is unfortunate. We have a panoply of Christian denominations. We have Vodou, which is the religion brought by Africans when they were brutally uprooted from their home in Africa. Alongside them, we have a growing community of Muslims. We do have Haitian Jews, but most of them are living outside of Haiti. Regarding other religions, we have tiny communities of Hindu and Buddhist, but they remain largely unknown. Now, turning back to Christian denominations and Vodou. This latter is seen by the majority of Christians as the plague of Haiti, or as Satan worshippers, or even the devil in person. And I'm not making any overstatement. When I was growing up, how daring would I be to even befriend a Vodou practitioner or to eavesdrop at a Vodou worship service? Then I did not see too much incongruity in that attitude toward Vodou. When I arrived at Hartford Seminary, I witnessed something I would never thought I would have experienced. I witnessed Jews, Christians, Muslims living, studying, eating, joking together. Without any exaggeration, these seemed to me heaven on earth. Thus, every time I talked to my parents, I took every opportunity to tell them how seeing our Vodouist neighbors differently would please God instead of putting them in a box, ignoring them, and showing no respect to them. Guess what? Recently, I visited my parents in the countryside of Haiti. Now, they are the ones who are pressing me to go and visit our Vodouist neighbors. I no longer hear my parents mentioning their non-Christianness. Instead, they show respect for who they are and the way they are, with compassion and kindness. This big shift in my life and in the life of my family was caused by Hartford Seminary. I consider this change of attitude toward others the beginning of respect, and respect the beginning of peaceful coexistence, and peaceful coexistence the beginning of peace. Where does justice fit in all this? Justice is the ingredient or the fertilizer that feeds and nourishes any quest for peace. I have in mind the kind of justice we all know, but I am also thinking of a natural justice where not respecting the other's choice to be who they choose to be is injustice. On this International Peace Day, I use my personal and familiar experience to claim that peace begins in the neighborhood, with one's family, and within oneself. We must break free of the narrow sectarianism that refuses to accept the faith of the stranger, the newcomer, and the foreigner. Too often we urge people to love without first inviting them to respect the other. It's like asking a baby to run before she could even crawl. Thus, respect is the prerequisite of love. Respecting one's own difference is a form of justice that promotes the value of human life and works for the well-being and even the perfection of the world. Thus, before I even ask you to love, I invite you to respect. Thank you.
Great. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Haifa Swilmi, who was in the 2019 IPP cohort. She's a Muslim woman from Tunisia. She's currently doing her PhD in political science at the University of Oregon, and that is in Eugene, where it has been very smoky, but she is resilient. She's also a member of a social justice theater troupe called Rehearsals for Life. In the past, she's led interfaith leadership summer programs for youth and taught workshops that are a combination of conflict transformation and theater of the oppressed techniques. So, Haifa.
I am very pleased to be speaking at the virtual community prayer of Hartford Seminary. When I was first invited to participate, I did not hesitate. My time at Hartford Seminary as an international peacemaking fellow last year was both rewarding and challenging. But above all, it was a very memorable experience. Perhaps the most challenging thing on the personal level was losing my father during the program, and he rest in peace. My Hartford Seminary fellows from different faith traditions and backgrounds were there to pray with me and for me. It was a nice reminder of our shared humanity. We all use the expression we are all human, but I was able to experience it at Hartford Seminary. Regardless of our faith traditions or any other layers of our identities that seem to set us apart, we all feel and understand the pain of loss. We can relate to each other's struggles as human beings. Today we are celebrating peace. When I saw the theme of today's prayer, I was overwhelmed. It was another nice reminder that many other people believe in the innate relation between justice and peace. I was not sure about what to say or how I wanted to say it. Our passion sometimes can be difficult to articulate. It can truly be beyond words. Striving for just peace articulates perfectly one of my core beliefs as a peace builder and a human being. Throughout my different professional and personal experiences with peace building, I have always struggled with the question of how to achieve peace without overlooking injustices. Unfortunately, from my own experience, justice is often overlooked in the pursuit of peace. Why get distracted with difficult tasks of pursuing justice when we can achieve fake peace? You are probably wondering what fake peace is, but it's okay because I just made that up. But in my mind, it is a way to say that it is superficial and it does not get to the core of issues nor address the grievances. In my opinion, that is the problem with many peace-building initiatives, whether within our local communities, our societies, or the international community. And that is perhaps due to the fact that for some, the definition of peace is limited to the absence of a violent conflict or of conflict in general. But is the absence of conflict truly what makes peace? Conflict is an inevitable part of life. Even our own feelings can be conflicted, and that is totally okay. It is through conflict that we can grow. In my opinion, the true meaning of peace cannot be limited to the superficial definition of the absence of a conflict. It is the absence of injustice that enable us to achieve true and sustainable peace. It is my commitment to the pursuit of justice and peace building that led me to join Rehearsals for Life during my first year as a PhD student at the University of Oregon. Rehearsals for Life is a social justice theater troupe at the University of Oregon that uses theater of the oppressed techniques to empower people in order to identify and address injustices in everyday situations. Peace can only be reached by examining the deeply rooted injustices. Oftentimes, we believe that conflicts happen due to misunderstandings. Of course, the lack of understanding and the presence of many misconceptions are real problems that need to be addressed. But in many cases, those are not the real drivers of conflict. Oftentimes, stakeholders understand each other very well, but refuse to acknowledge each other's needs or see through each other's pain, which consequently leads to an unbalanced power struggle. Therefore, peace building should take into consideration the power dynamics and strive for justice in order to achieve true and sustainable peace that can last. We are simply putting band-aids on inflicted wounds if we overlook this crucial part of peace building. When the suffering of some is more relevant than the suffering of others, or when the lives of some are more valuable than the lives of others, when the rights of some are more cherished than the rights of others, when the identity of some is more respected than the identity of others, or when the history of some is more celebrated than the history of others, when we cannot see or care enough about the rights of other humans just because they look a little different than us or they have different skin colors, they probably do not speak our language or do not have our own faith tradition, or frankly because they are not as powerful as others are. When we dehumanize others and do not pursue justice regardless of all these considerations, then our own humanity becomes lacking. There is no peace without justice. Ibn Khaldun, the great social scientist and historian from the Islamic civilization, said, "العدل أساس العمران والظلم مؤذن بخرابه." And that translates as justice is the basis of society and injustice is the beginning of its end. If we take a look at our world today, we will see that behind all the ills of racism, sexism, wars, and all forms of oppression, there is one common factor: injustice. Not only is justice an important part of my understanding of peace building, it is also a core value in my faith tradition. In fact, the just is one of God's names. My faith, of course, informs my overall understanding of the world and peace building more specifically. The Prophet Muhammad والسلام, quoted God saying, "O my servants, I have forbidden injustice upon myself and have made it forbidden amongst you. So do not commit injustice." Ultimately, I would like to say that it is the responsibility of each one of us who believe in the importance of peace building to seek justice in the process. What our world needs in order to heal is for us all to strive for just peace. Thank you.
To close our community prayer, Haifa will recite prayer.
So I will be reading the Arabic for the blessings, and there is the English translation in the slide. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام وإليك يعود السلام. تحيينا ربنا بالسلام وأدخلنا دار السلام. تباركت وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Peace upon you all.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining our community prayer today. And for next week, we will have Miss Gilana Levavi to lead us next week with the theme A Taste of Sukkot. So thank you very much for joining in today, and feel free to stay for Holy Grounds Coffee Hour after this one.